Hey, I'm going to go through today these Egyptian walking onions. Now, you may have gotten this as a gift from me or a gift from someone else, and we've had them in the family now since definitely for the last 30 years. We have had them watched over for 130 years in the various land plots. So our neighbor Gil had them in their farmstead in northeast Minneapolis from the 30s on, and they were from the original farmstead that was in North Minneapolis. So they are a variety that we know the heirloom of, we know what it's been doing, and I wanted to share it with you. So these are also called a tree onion. They can grow almost anywhere. As you can see, they're huge. What I love about them is that all of them are edible. And as food justice, this is food that can grow anywhere. And they also, if you're a potager, if you have a potager garden, they can grow in with other plants. So they get real big, they can grow together. This is mulchy, but we've had them in many different kinds of land because what am I trying to do? I'm trying to bring food back to people that is an heirloom quality. So that means it's an open pollinator, that it can recreate itself. You don't need new seeds every year. You don't have to pull it out of the ground. And we just had a little rain here, so I'm gonna get a little misty here. But the longer that I've had these, which is now, quite a few years, that we have them in lots of places. So this is in our Peace Garden right out by the street. So this is in Minnesota. It gets a lot of sand and salt and lots of abuse. But this is the magic of that plant, are these bulbs, these little bulblets. And they can be different sizes, which is the propagator. So you'll want to pull these when they get quite big. There are three parts to this plant. So there is a mother root, which is this really giant one. And then it'll have two kind of side pieces to it. So I'm going to pull one, just any one out. Let me get in here. And I'm going to pull out its onion. So it has lots and lots of these roots. Now, I've had other people tell me that you can grow from these roots. I don't know that to be true. But it has three parts to this onion. So it has this main onion part, and then it has these two side pieces. So if you don't harvest the two side pieces, they'll get brown and that way. But you can use this just like chive. If you're going to pull the whole thing, 100% of this plant is edible. You can leave this in the ground from year to year if you want bigger onions. This is a healthy onion. When you buy onions at the farmer's market of any kind, this is where you want to see where is the nourishment of that plant. It is in these beautiful root systems. So this is a healthy onion. This has had place to grow. Now this particular one grew out right by the side yard. As you can tell, it's just out here. But the reason I plant them out here is because I have an enormous amount of flowers that I don't want the rabbits to eat. So if I just line the flower garden with these onions, the rabbits just naturally stay out. So rabbits don't like onions, neither do deer. So if you're trying to protect something, it's a plant that you can kind of look as an ornamental item that can go right next to the things you don't want the rabbits to eat. So especially if you have an expensive garden, a lot of you have really interesting bulbs and plants that you are using. Now, it is also called a tree onion. It came to the United States in the late 1800s, came from immigrants that are here, but it was also harvested and brought across the world as a food source. And a food source that you see this a lot when you look at these original recipes for this soup. For this particular item, it's usually used in soups. That it is so flavorful. I mean, when You can smell this when it rains. It just rained here, so you can smell onion in the yard when it rains. So it is also another great way to keep those rabbits out of your garden because it's a natural deterrent. But when you put these, like if I just picked 5 of these and threw them in the car, my entire car would smell all day of onion. So it is an onion that has a lot of flavor. It has a lot of personality. Sometimes they get purple, sometimes they stay just this other kind of nice yellowy tone. And you can dry them because there's so much stem. First of all, this stem with the mother root, so that's that main one. So when you're harvesting through the year, you don't want to take this main root, and you can feel it. It's really thick, tuberous in its nature, but it's going to grow this bulblet. And that bulblet, if it's getting lots of water, it will grow a second one right at the end. So you can choose to harvest at this point or harvest at this point. It will just keep walking itself forward. And this bulblet will get so heavy that it will drop to the ground and replant itself. So you want to catch those before it replants itself. And sometimes I'll get, just 3 on a bulblet, and sometimes there'll be 10 or 20. I'll walk you over to some other examples of that. You can pull these little bits apart and plant them as one each. About 1 inch apart is what you want. But sometimes they're this many. There's a true bulblet, and each one of these will grow into a plant. It takes 2 years to propagate, so you have to give yourself 2 full years when you're starting these. The 2 years is imperative because it can't produce on that first year. It can't produce that bulblet, and it has to have maturity in the plant. So the ones that you plant right away this year, just let them grow. Next year, don't do anything. Let them gain their strength. Leave them in the ground. Let winter take its course. We're in a zone 3 to 4, and they stay in the ground all year. I don't have to do a thing. They'll come up next spring. They'll come up before your asparagus. So just leave them in the ground. The more you leave them in the ground, the bigger that bulb will be. So if you want the onion itself, let it propagate each year. If you want to increase your harvest and grow a much larger patch, then take those bulblets and just get them planted all over. Now, can you kill them? Absolutely. I have other friends who are like, gosh, you'll just get so many. Yes, you will. But they will overgrow themselves and they'll start to kill themselves off. So you definitely want to manage your onion population and manage them in that garden the way that you want them to go. So again, they can be right here. They're just right in the side yard. They're living happily with other plants. They will kind of make themselves a mess in the beginning, but they'll have this in the early spring. They come up big and strong, and they will feel like a Monet garden. They just are the funnest thing to have early in the season. So again, they can be in dry sandy soil. They like to be hot and bothered. They like that hot and bothered feeling, and then they like to be cool and crisp. So like today we've had a rain. They're so happy. They'll just pop up, and they'll pop up. They look like they're just dry and thirsty. They need 1 inch of rain. They need 1 inch of water a week. So make sure you water them. I wanted a large amount because I use a lot of chive kind of flavors in my food in the summer. So I want them, I want that tuber crisp and full of life. So I water them consistently. And when you water them consistently, you'll get a real strong, you can just see how strong this is. You'll get a real strong stalk, which is great for soups. If you want something, these are also dryable. So I will take even these heavy stalks and dry them to put them into soup. But again, they will just keep growing. And this part is my favorite part of the garden, is when they get these crazy little vines and they're ready. You can just pop them in the ground at any time. It's not like you have to hold them over and wait till next spring. Just pop them in the ground. They will sort their way out. And it's the only plant that I can give you that will truly grow prosperously hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of percent bigger. So a good onion garden takes about 4 years to really get going. By the 5th year, you're like, wow, this is amazing. So again, keep the story going, keep the heirloom part of it with it, use it in your gardens. You can container garden this. I'm not a fan of bringing them in the winter because they smell like onions, so I don't really want a house that smells like onions in the winter. So I will take all of that beauty of them in the summer and enjoy that. Tip from one of my other friends is Vietnamese eggs. If you are someone who cooks Vietnamese eggs or Vietnamese food, you will love this. Everywhere that you used a green onion, these will be times even better. So you can use them in lots of different kinds of foods. If you are someone that likes that onion flavor on top of that fresh onion, in Greek food, in anything that you eat that's real fresh, salads, things like that, these are a great addition to your menu planning because they are very flavorful. Oops, I'm getting a little rain down here under the tree, but they will grow next to sandy soil. They'll grow in rich, beautiful soil, and they will grow and propagate even in a pot. I'm going to walk over to one of the pots that is propagating because sometimes I just set them in there till I can kind of manage them. So even if they're kind of abused, you'll get kind of a smaller one. Even if you just have this little bit with some of these and the top has grown down, just put it in there. It will grow. Sometimes they're just small and you just literally just give them a hole and a space and let them tuck in. So this is something that you can container garden. It will grow. It will grow. It's hard to not grow them. So enjoy your onions. I'm glad that you are hanging out with them. I can't wait to see what you're doing with them and how you're using them. And, again, radical share. Take that bulb and share it with another because, again, in our food system, we don't have enough food like that. Which means that it'll come back each year. You don't need a new seed. You don't need to pull it out of the ground. That it will naturally propagate. And that's a big deal. So have a great day. And thanks for onioning with me. Bye.